Good morning. I'm Steve Hadley, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you today. This November, we will celebrate the 60th anniversary of USAID. For 6 decades, the men and women of USAID have been leading the charge to make the world a more peaceful and prosperous place. Your efforts have helped give voice to marginalized communities, rescue victims of international disasters, bring peace to those who've endured violence, alleviated poverty, and provided medicine to people who would have died without your help. Through you, the true generosity of the American people is on full display. You show up to work to improve the lives of others and give hope to millions of people around the world. You represent the best of our great country, and I want to thank you for your service. Although USAID has accomplished a lot over the last 60 years, there is much more to be done. One of the areas where you are needed most is strengthening democratic governance and protecting human rights, which are both critical in themselves and are essential to achieving overall development goals. If you turn on the news, things seem to be moving in the wrong direction on these critical issues. In Russia, Vladimir Putin has attacked protesters, threatened and imprisoned reporters, poisoned and arrested opposition leaders, invaded neighbors, interfered in our elections, and carried out cyber attacks. In Beijing, an aggressive Chinese Communist Party has taken away rights from the people of Hong Kong, exported surveillance technology to other authoritarian regimes, threatened a democratic Taiwan, and continues to wage a cultural genocide on Turkic and Uyghur Muslims. Elected political leaders in Burma were arrested after a military coup, destroying any semblance of democracy there. A theocratic regime in Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, jails, tortures, and silences millions of its citizens who thirst for basic freedoms and an accountable government. Even in our own hemisphere, democracy is under attack. Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua has banned protest and imprisoned political opponents. Nicolas Maduro clings to power while Venezuelans suffer under his corrupt rule. 20% of Venezuela's desperate population has fled the country. And although the Castro brothers are no longer in power, there has been little daylight for democracy in Cuba, a nation just 90 miles from our shores. Many observers see these developments and believe that democracy is in irreversible decline. I completely reject that view. Too often, we judge the strength of democracy by the actions of the government, when we should be looking at the actions of the people. In the last several years alone, millions of people in different cities on different continents have dared to stand up, speak out, and demand the right to live in a democratic society. From Khartoum to Caracas, from Moscow to Minsk, from Hong Kong and beyond, large crowds have spilled out into the streets because they want more freedom, not less. Their passion is a perfect match for the theme of this conference: renewed, resilient, and resolute. They wish to be citizens, not subjects, and America must support them because it is right and because it is in our self-interest. In an address to the British Parliament in 1982, President Reagan stated that democracy is not a fragile flower, but it still needs cultivating. If we wanted to see an expansion of freedom, he said, we would need to assist the campaign for democracy. The president I served most closely, George W. Bush, turned this principle into the freedom agenda and announced in his second inaugural address that it is the policy of the United States to end tyranny in our world. The advance of liberty abroad has always had and continues to have broad bipartisan support, including Democrats in Congress and in the White House. Fortunately, USAID and its partners, such as the International Republican Institute and the National Democratic Institute, have been tremendous assets for this noble cause. On the ground, USAID and its implementers must continue to strengthen democratic governance by supporting political party development, electoral integrity, the rights of minorities, and institutions that are accountable to the people they serve. This work not only reflects our values, but pragmatically advances our interests. As you well know, issues such as poor health care, lack of access to education, food insecurity, and extreme poverty generally stem from poor or corrupt governance, and that leads all too often to extremism, violence, and despair. Such a world is not in America's interest and is not conducive to the peace and prosperity of the American people. A democratic political system is also essential to safeguarding individual liberties, advancing inclusion, and addressing inequality. Human rights will never be protected by a dictatorship. A strong and vibrant democracy is not just about holding an election and counting ballots. It's about empowering individuals and providing them with the tools they need to build a bright future. And that is why USAID's commitment to supporting democracy and responsive governance is one of the most important undertakings by any agency in our federal government. The work is not easy. It requires a lot of patience. In a democracy, the job is never truly finished, even in our own country. We've been tasked by our founders to create a more perfect union. That is a responsibility that we carry each day, and it belongs to all of us, and we have a lot more work to do. As someone who has served in several Republican administrations, I am very pleased that the Democratic Biden administration has highlighted democracy, human rights, and good governance as foreign policy priorities. USAID will be central to turning this commitment into action. Administrator Samantha Power has spent her entire professional career advocating for American leadership on these issues. It's clear to me that USAID is in very good hands. Please remember, your work is not just a moral calling. It is vital to America's economic prosperity and national security. Today, U.S. leadership and support for democracy globally, including through USAID and its partners, are more important than ever. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts with you. I'm grateful for your service to our country. I wish you all the best of luck in advancing the cause of a freer and more just world, a world that will also advance American interests and values. Thank you very much.